Hey guys, this time we're going to do the reading so we can develop a more nuanced understanding, so understanding with the qualifications, extra reason, extra logic of what Woolf is trying to say in her introduction, alright? So to do that we need to build on our prior knowledge, we need to record any additional nuanced understanding, so again that might be the extra bits, the things we haven't thought of before, or the more detailed justifications of an argument or idea. The qualifications of an idea, it's only true insofar of X, that kind of stuff. And then when we do that, we're going to then consolidate. So we're going to take what usually happens after a summary where we have lots of fuzzy logic, and we're going to try and put it all together around one thread of logic or a narrative or some kind of overall argument. Okay, so can you please record these 3 success criteria and then score yourself? And once you've done that, please draw a picture that represents an action motivated by the 3 categories we discussed in the summary video. So that would be egoism, that would be a call from the universe's perspective, and reasons of love. Thank you. Okay, so let's quickly read through this stuff. I'll stop when we need to, and I'll kind of elaborate on certain key points, but I think we could probably read through a lot of this stuff very quickly, okay? So, this is section 1 of her essay, Meaning in Life, A False Dichotomy. Let's go. Philosophical models of human psychology, or more specifically of human motivation, tend to fall into one of 2 categories. Perhaps the oldest and most popular model conceives of human beings as egoists, moved and guided exclusively by what they take in to be their own self-interest. However, there have long been defenders of a dualistic model of motivation as well, according to which people are capable of being moved not only by self-interest but also by something higher. Kant, for example, famously thought that in addition to being subject to the inclinations, people are capable of being moved and directed by reason alone. So I guess the categorical imperative and Kant's duty-bound ethics would probably be an example of the perspective of the universe or something outside of us calling us to action. And that's just a nice little example, because remember, she sets up in the dualist model 2 different perspectives. One of them is egoism, and the other one is unnamed, because they could be many different things. But the point about these unnamed things is it has to be a call to moral action or a motivation for moral action from an external point of view. Okay? Closely linked to these 2 descriptive models of human motivation are prescriptive and normative models of practical reason. So in other words, we can explain things using the understanding of motivation, but we also need to understand that when we explain motivation, we are also outlining prescriptive or normative models of practical reasons, so why we should behave certain ways based on our motivation. They kind of end up being moral justifications. The descriptive thesis of psychological egoism, which holds that people exclusively seek their own good, is closely connected to and frequently confused with the normative, which means the moral perspective, or the justification, the moral justification for why they should behave a certain way. The normative thesis of rational egoism, which holds that people are only rational insofar as they maximise their own welfare. Corresponding to the dual conception of human motivation, we find a dual conception of practical reason as well. This is perhaps most explicitly, most explicit in the reasons of Henry Sedgwick, who, I'm just going to move because I did a bit of a wrong scanning, so we'll just go right down to number 2, held that 2 perspectives offer equally valid reasons to act. The egoistic perspective, which issues recommendations of what is most in an agent's self-interest, and the impersonal perspective, again, this is the perspective from the point of view of the universe. Can you just record that? And I'll be back in a second. In ordinary discourse, as well as philosophy, we seem to have one of these 2 models in the backs of our minds when we offer justification for our actions or our policies, so what we think should happen publicly. Most often, when asked to explain or justify our choices, we offer reasons that seem to fall under the category of self-interest. When we are trying to persuade someone else to do something, we may appeal to self-interest, in this case to the other person's self-interest even more. Still, there are some occasions when invoking self-interest would simply be unconvincing, and others when such appeals would be unseemly or at least beside the point. In these cases, we are likely to speak of the language of duty. Again, this relates to can't. Can't develop the categorical imperative and other practical reason, he called it, which really is you thinking about how we should act in the world, hence practice, and we should use that applying logic, and through logic we realise certain moral axioms outlined in the categorical imperative. We are duty-bound to act upon them because they are logical and reasonable to act upon, that kind of thing, right? So, when we speak the language of duty, justice, compassion, or simply morality, demands that we act in such a way whether it contributes to our own good or not. These models of motivation and practical reason, however, seem to me to leave out many of the motives and reasons that shape our lives. Moreover, the reasons left out are neither peripheral nor eccentric. In other words, it's not saying there's side bits of information. These are important reasons, okay? Indeed, we might say that the reasons and motives admitted by these models are some of the most important and central ones in our lives. They are the reasons and motives that engage us in activities that make our lives worth living. Worth kind of relates to this idea of value, right? And that value idea is going to come up in a minute, so just think about that for a bit. They give us a reason to go on. They make our world go round. And the activities they engender give meaning to our lives. So this is really important. The motivation, which will also become a prescriptive or normative framework for justifying why we should do things. They also, this is really important, they also contribute meaning. They give us meaning. Take a note. My aim in this lecture is to bring out the distinctive character of these sorts of reasons and the special role they play in the quality of our lives. Specifically, I shall suggest that our susceptibility to these sorts of reasons is connected to the possibility that we live meaningful lives. Understanding meaningfulness as an attribute, lives can have, that is not reducible or subsumable under either happiness, as it is ordinarily understood, or morality. I shall be mainly concerned to explain the feature I call meaningfulness in life and to present it as such a way as to make them worth wanting for ourselves and for those about whom we care. As it will be seen, however, what I have to say will be of little or no practical use. Though I shall offer a view of what it means for a life to be meaningful, I can offer only the most abstract advice about how to go about getting or living such a life. In the second lecture, therefore, and guys, we're not going to read the second lecture, after defending my view against one particularly important set of objections, I shall turn to the question of why it matters that we notice that there is such a category as meaningfulness, distinct from the categories of happiness, which relates to rational self-interest or rational egoism, and morality, which relies to what she said before, which is being called to action from the point of view of the universe, or something external, like the categorical imperative, or other kind of deontological or duty-bound or duty-based ethics, okay? That we are more used to invoking and thinking about what to do and how to live. As I shall argue, awareness that meaning is a third sort of value a life can possess should affect our understanding of the first two sorts, right? So this is really important because it wasn't mentioned in the summary. Happiness, related to rational egoism, would be the value one gets when one acts according to their rational self-interest. The other value would be the good, when we are being called to by some kind of external moral justification or moral reason from the point of view of the universe. And the last one that she's adding, so they were the two from the dualistic model, the last one that she's adding is the idea of meaningfulness. So can you please take a note? Okay, so three values, three things that we're trying to accrue. Okay, good, happiness, and meaningfulness. Okay, take some notes. Okay, value that can possess should affect your understanding of the first two sorts. So what she's basically saying is that there will be a relationship to them, alright? As I shall argue, awareness that meaning is a third sort of value life can possess should affect our understanding of the first two sorts. That's happiness and, of course, the good. That is, adopting models of human motivation and reason that are attentive to meaningfulness should affect the way that we think about happiness and morality, and about self-interest as well. Moreover, if the view I present in these lectures is right, we cannot so much as conceive of meaning without the attributes of a certain objectivity to value judgments. This is getting very philosophical here. We'll see what she means by objectivity to value judgments, okay? It follows that if we want to continue to talk about, or attend to, and encourage the acquisition of meaning in people's lives, we need to be willing to admit that a sort of objectivity we need to admit this sort of objectivity into our discussion of values. So she's saying, you should probably write this down, we need to think about something kind of external that exists outside of subjectivity when we're discussing our set of values, if we're going to talk about meaning. That idea of objectivity is really important. Take a note. Why? We don't know. We're probably going to find that out later. Okay? Let me begin with some examples of the sort of reasons and motives I have in mind. Reasons and motives that are not best understood in terms of their contribution to either our happiness or sense of what impersonal reason or morality demands. Most obvious examples of what I have in mind occur when we act out of love for individuals about whom we deeply and especially care. When I visit my brother in the hospital, or when I help my friend move, or stay up all night sewing my daughter a Halloween costume, I act neither for egoistic reasons nor for moral ones. I do not believe that it's better for me that I spend a depressing hour in a drab, cramped room, seeing my brother irritable and in pain, that I risk back injury trying to get my friend's sofa safely down the flight of stairs, or that I forego hours of much-wanted sleep to make sure that the wings will stand out at a good angle from the butterfly costume my daughter wants to wear in the next day's parade. But neither do I believe myself duty-bound to perform these acts, or fool myself into thinking that by doing them I will do what will be best for the world. So what she's saying is that these actions that she's performed are for other people because of love for other people, are not reasons that are going to make the world a better place. So they're not reasons that she's duty-bound to perform. So from the point of view of the universe or something outside of you, it doesn't make sense. But also, too, they're not directly related to what a rational egoist would call your self-interest. There's some other motivation, okay? I act neither out of self-interest nor out of duty or any other sort of impersonal or impartial reason. Rather, I act out of love. As the egoistic and dualist models of practical reason leave out what we might call these reasons of love. So basically, she's saying that she's acting for a reason of love when she does these things. That's her motivation. And it'll also end up being a moral prescription or a moral justification. Okay? So they seem to me to leave out many of the reasons that move us to pursue non-personal interests about which we are especially passionate. Passions are also an example of reasons of love. See why? Writing philosophy, practicing the cello, keeping one's garden free of weeds may demand more of one's time and attention than would be optimal from the point of view of one's own being. So what she really means by one's own being is one's own being defined by the way that a rational egoist would define it, okay? Yet in these cases, even more than in the cases involving beloved human beings, it is obvious that no impersonal perspective requires us to act. So in other words, I'm not really being called to play the cello or write philosophy or work on the garden from the point of view of the categorical imperative or any other kind of external moral framework, okay? Just as in the case of acting for a loved one, it is the good of that other person that provides us with a reason for our action. So we want to do it for the other person, okay? What draws us on in the non-personal pursuits I have in mind is a perceived or imagined value that lies outside of oneself. So there's a good and a value that kind of underpin why we do something for someone else or for something that really isn't in our absolute self-interest, okay? Take a note. I agonize over the article I'm trying to write because I want to get it right. That is because I want the argument to be sound, the view to be correct, the writing to be clear and graceful. It is not for my sake, at least not only for my sake, that I struggle so with my work. I do not know or care whether it is best for me. That is, whether it is best for me from the point of view of my own self-interest, as defined by rational egoism. That I try to improve my work beyond a certain point, any more than I care whether it is best for me that I put so much energy into making my daughter happy. We might say that I struggle for philosophy's sake rather than for my own, but that would still be misleading and obscure as well as pretentious. Still, it seems to me that it is the value of good philosophy that is driving and guiding my behaviour in this instance, as it might be the beauty of the music or the potential garden that moves the cellist or the gardener to sacrifice ease and exercise discipline in pursuit of her goal. It does not seem unnatural or forced to speak of subjects of these examples as loving philosophy or music or flowers, and their love for these things may not only explain but may also justify. So it moves away from being a descriptive to a prescriptive or normative perspective, okay? Or more strictly may contribute to the justification. Now this is what you need to record. She's not saying that she only believes in reasons for love. She's saying reasons for love will complement the dualistic model. We really need to think about it as three particular reasons with three particular values, okay? Again, rational self-interest, which would contribute to what we could define as happiness. A call from an external perspective or a moral perspective outside of us, which could allow us to contribute or create the good, you know, which is very much like something that Socrates would argue. There's also her perspective, which is to create meaning, and you create meaning through love. The value of doing something that you love will create meaning in your life, okay? You put the three together. Okay, so she then goes on to say the choices of behaviour in their love themselves for just to contribute the action, their choices and behaviour more than their love for themselves or morality or for some other impersonal general good. Because of the similarities in motivational, which means we get what motivation means, and deliberative stance, that means conversations, the way that I talk about them, okay, stance of these subjects, to that of the people who act out of love for individuals, I shall use the phrase reasons for love to cover both types of cases. That's for passions and for interpersonal love. My claim then is that reasons of love, whether human individuals or other creatures or activities, ideals or objects, remember I scanned it wrong, of other sorts, have a distinctive and important role in our lives. They are not to be assimilated to reasons of self-interest or reasons of morality. So she's saying they can't be reduced to morality or self-interest. Insofar as we fail to recognise and appreciate the legitimacy and value of these reasons, we misunderstand our values and ourselves and distort our concerns. So we don't really understand why we're motivated to behave a certain way, and really why morally we do behave a certain way, or why morally we should behave a certain way. Not all actions that are motivational and guided by reasons of love are justified, however. Not all reasons of love are good reasons. For one thing, your love for something or for someone is no guarantee that you know what is actually good for them. You may mean to help the object of your love, but your action may not benefit it. You might spoil your child and overwater your plants or cramp your philosophical style. Take a note. Not all reasons are good. More interestingly, love can be misplaced or misguided. The energy or attention that you give to an object of love may be disproportionate to what the object merits. In other words, it just might not be worth it. A wonderful woman might give up her career, her home, her friendships to follow and serve a man for the rest of us sees as not deserving her. An impressionable teenager might sign over his trust fund to a cult, which he has become enamored thereby losing both his financial security and the opportunity to benefit worthier and needier groups. What I wish to defend then is the justifiability and importance of a subset of actions and decisions that are guided by reasons for love. So record this. She wants to defend certain actions and decisions based on reasons for love that are justifiable and important. Okay. I want to defend the claim that acting in a way that positively engages with our worthy object of love can be perfectly justified. Record that. That is great. She wants to defend the claim that acting in a way that positively engages, and by positively she means contributes to good, and worthy means must have some kind of decent value, object of love can be perfectly justified. She wants to defend the claim that acting in a way that positively engages a worthy object of love can be perfectly justified. Can you record a note? Here is the extra qualification she's adding to that. Even if it does not maximally promote either the agent's welfare or the good of the world. So the good of the world is the reference to the external call, from the outside perspective. Actions and decisions based on the good of the beloved are part and parcel of love and its expression quite generally. When, in addition, the object of love is specified to be worthy of love, the justification of action on behalf of that object may be straightforward. In other words, if we can find that the object of love, there's that idea, remember we talked about it before, the kind of external point, it has to be, bound into the way we consider moral norms, right? The object of love is specified to be worthy of love. The justification is pretty straightforward. Can you take a note? Why shouldn't it be justifiable for a person to act on behalf of a friend, for example, as it is for her to act on her own behalf? And why shouldn't it be justifiable to act on behalf of one's friend, as it is to do something greater to benefit the world at large? Unless rational egoism or a particular extreme form of consequentialism is presupposed, there is no reason to doubt the rational permissibility. So in other words, you are allowed to, the rational permissibility of acting on such reasons for love. Still, I want to say something stronger, something more favourable and more supportive of reasons of this sort. More precisely, I want to say something more favourable about a life that is prone to being moved and guided by such reasons. Proneness to being moved and guided by such reasons, I believe, is at the core of what our ability is to live meaningful lives. Can you write that down? To be moved and guided by reasons for love is what's going to enable us to live a meaningful life. You need to record that. But it is far from clear of what saying this amounts to. So what does it actually mean in action? I'm going to go get the dog to be quiet, and then we'll go through the success criteria. Sorry, we're working at it because it's been a while since I've taken her for a walk. She's got a limp. And also, she usually gets fed at 5 o'clock and she's a bit mad. Right. Let's go through our success criteria, shall we? And have a look at whether or not we managed to achieve them. So, did we build on our prior knowledge? I think we did. I think it was pretty clear that everything we covered in the summary was being fleshed out through the reading. Alright? Did we add more nuanced understandings? I think we did. I think some of the ways that she phrased her key ideas were much better and more well qualified, more well explained than when we put it together in a summary. Okay? Did we take what we learned from the summary and put it together again in a stronger narrative or a stronger overall argument? Absolutely. It's pretty clear that she's saying the dualistic method doesn't cut it. We need to consider another form of motivation, which can also become a moral prescription or a moral justification, and that is when we act in ways that can't be reduced to morality or our own self-interest, and they are reasons for love. And then she says, not all reasons for love are good, but I need to just defend those that are worthy. I need to defend the justifiable, worthy ones that allow me to positively engage in a constructive way in creating meaning in my life. And that's what I want to do. I want to explain what this actually means in the rest of the narrative. So quickly score yourself on those. You should understand why you did that APK, and I want you to have a